Hey guys, what's going on? Today we're bringing you a video going over a deck with the newest card to the game, Selene, and it is centered around the High Evolutionary archetype, and it includes bringing the junk aspect to it. Selene has just been an incredible addition to the junk archetype overall. She's probably one of the best one-drops in the game at this point, and there's going to be many different archetypes she's going to fit into, like bounce as well, but for this video, I found a lot of success with this deck, and I wanted to get it out there for you guys so you can use it, mess around with it, and start climbing ladder, getting some rank, stealing some cubes. So let's get into the evolution of junk. So like most junk decks, the concept of this deck is to get out there and flood your opponent's board with junk, get negative power over there, make it frustrating for them to play the video game. And I'm going to split the deck up into the two categories that we like to do on this channel, which are the must-haves and the flex cards. And the must-haves generally should be always in your deck, and the flex cards are flex cards, and you can kind of mess around and see what's working best for you, or you could be running into a certain type of meta at the time, and you could have more success with a hazmat versus a viper accordingly. And moving on to the must-haves, and this being a High Evolutionary base deck, we'll start with High Evolutionary and his cards that he impacts. And I like running High Evolutionary in my junk decks because it is not very common in terms of the gameplay style I am running. I'm going with a more of a negative opponent impact versus just flooding the opponent's board with goblins and things like that. So High Evolutionary with Cyclops giving negative power to the opponent's board is very useful, because I also like to run the Abomination in this list, and Abomination has been extremely powerful because as a 9 power and a lot of the times only 2, even 0 cost, he can be an incredible swing that your opponent will not be looking for. And the Hulk at a 612 is relatively strong, but throughout the game you are not going to be completely energy efficient, so your Hulk will increase power and he will be able to be a strong turn 6 play if you need to just get power out and you don't have priority to have an Eliath to lock down a lane and win it for you. And moving on, we have the Hood included in this deck, and I think the Hood is one of the best junk cards out there. He provides potential value for just giving you a 1/6 so you can increase your own power, and there's always the target of your Annihilus or your Viper to send the Hood over to the other side of the board and negate your opponent down. The Hood is also the best target in your entire deck for Selene. You can get a -6 Hood, and if you can swing it over to your opponent's side, that's huge. And speaking of Selene, she is very important to this deck. She came out and she's taken over the world of the 1-drops. She's just about as S tier as it comes, in my opinion. She helps out your archetype significantly and just negatively impacts your opponent's hand every single time, unless you're doing a mirror matchup. But in that case, it can still kind of help you. So she's just extremely powerful when she adds negative power to anything. And herself being negative power, she's also an Annihilus target that gets sent over and clogs up your opponent's side of the board. She's just very powerful, very strong card that I look forward to continue to use. And Debris has been a staple in the junk deck forever, even when it wasn't really a successful deck. But now, in this archetype especially, with me running a more negative power on the opponent's side of the board, Debris is extremely powerful because she provides the opportunity for you to clog up the board faster, but she also gives you opportunity to get negative power on your opponent's board faster, to get your Abomination out quicker, to get you priority and surprise win lanes that your opponent won't be ready for. Sentry is a card that has benefited significantly from Annihilus coming out to the video game. He's now he's one of the most powerful 4-drops out there in terms of just sheer 10 power, and most of the time you're not going to have to worry about the -10 void that is in your right lane. It's going to get sent over to the other side a lot of the time, or just destroyed. You do have to worry about Professor X, but he is seen significant drop in his gameplay since he was nerfed to a 1 power. I would also suggest not playing this deck if you do not have a Nihilus. A Nihilus is as important as any card in this deck. He is just so powerful in clogging your opponent's side of the board. He can help save you if you have negative stuff on your board, and if you get him out at a certain time, you can mess up your opponent's gameplay strategy, lock them out of lanes, which will set up your Goliath or your Hulk on turn 6 and to just win you the game even easier. And all the fighting and struggling that you're doing early in the game comes with a reason, and that is because you're running an Goliath in this deck list, and if you play the early game correctly, you're going to have lanes locked down for your opponent that they're not even going to be able to play any cards in, so your Goliath with your priority is just going to win you games, and he's still one of the best cards in the game. You just win the game if you're playing against an Invisible Woman, Tribunal. I can't say enough good things about Goliath. I know he's one of the most hated cards in the game, but he's very good, and he is a very strong card in this deck. And with that, we're going to move on to our flex cards, and I have 3 slotted flex cards that I've been running the most in this deck list. There are a few more like Ravonna Renslayer that I didn't include, but if you run a more lower cost, obviously one or lower powered deck list, you could find more value in her, and I wouldn't say no to running her. But I personally have been running Hazmat, Viper, and Man-Thing a ton and finding a lot of success with these 3. Hazmat is great because if you draw her late game, she can still produce a ton of negative power onto your opponent's side of the board, which can give you a combo play of a free Abomination at the end of the game with something else, which your opponent is likely not going to be expecting. And it doesn't feel as bad playing Hazmat earlier in a game with this deck style because you can still decrease the cost of your Abomination, and you can get him out for like a 3 or a 2 cost, and that still feels very strong, especially with the amount of Thanos gameplay out there right now. There's going to be a bunch of Infinity Stones, a bunch of 1-cross out there, and your Hazmat is going to find value early. Viper is the one card that I have slotted out the most. She's a lot clunkier now with her nerf to becoming a 3/4. She's still pretty strong. There's not really any cards besides Annihilus that does what she can do, sending a negative card to the opponent's side of the board. So if you're finding consistency issues and getting cards over to your opponent's side of the board and you're not drawing Annihilus as much as you need to, then maybe you want to flex in a Viper. But personally, I've been leaving her out more frequently than not and still finding a lot of success. And I'm running Man-Thing because there's a lot of low-cost cards out there being played right now, and he really impacts them significantly with the ongoing negative power that he dishes out. And he gives you flexibility. If you haven't drawn your Cyclops to get negative power out there, you can have your Man-Thing giving you negative power to the opponent's side of the board, which helps you win priority as well as benefits your Abomination and helps you get it out quicker to give you priority for your turn 6 plays. So guys, that is the Evolution of Junk deck. It is very strong with the current meta out there. I'm hoping it helps you guys climb rank, get to infinite before the end of the season and the reset happens. Let me know how it's working for you. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. See ya.